Well, welcome back to your spring education video series. Steve and Dan here with you again. If you missed our first video, it is a bop. You want to go watch it. We talk to you about financial planning and all the major components from taxes, estates, investing, risk management, cash flow. It's a video you don't want to miss. But as we told you at the end of that video, it's great if you have all these plans, but if there's somebody that you share this life with, or you make decisions together, like that's probably one of the hardest transitions for people is like how to bring your spouse, significant other, or even your adult children into the conversation, especially when it comes to money. Because we all come from different backgrounds where maybe mom and dad were open about money. Maybe mom and dad were not open about money. Maybe you grew up rich, maybe you grew up poor. Money is a very sensitive subject. And so we want to maybe share some tidbits as to how you can begin to talk about spouses with your spouse about money. So Dan, what are some of the ways that we can communicate with a spouse or significant other, especially when it comes to something so sensitive as money?
Yeah, and this really surprised me as I started working with people. At really kind of what I've seen over time is kind of a lack of communication
Mhm.
around money, and what I've seen is a lot of times I'll work with couples, and one person handles the finances, and the other one really has kind of nothing to do with it.
They're just happy to
Um,
be there.
what's that?
They're just happy to be there.
Yeah, that's right. They're just along for the ride. But and that's okay. But if you want to be involved, in the everyday finances or the retirement planning, and in the previous video we talked about building out kind of those retirement projections. You're in it as a team together. So I always tell clients you have to be honest with each other. You
Mhm.
have to talk through what are your goals, but also maybe what are your fears. I've had people tell me that money scares them. So what are your fears about money? How did you grow up? Each person grows up a little bit differently as far as how they talk to their parents about money, or how they were raised regarding finances. So you want to make sure you have those open and honest conversations. You want to be able to set goals together as well. If you, as far as, let's say you want to retire by a certain age, or you each want to save a certain amount of money, or you want to make some type of a purchase, set goals together. And you can almost make it as, I wouldn't call it a game, but you can almost make it a game. Hey, we want to be able to retire by the time we're 55 or 60. What do we need to get there? That goes back to those retirement projections. Work together on doing that. Um,
Dan,
you know,
before you jump into the next one
yeah,
too, I want to tell you that let me give you a couple scenarios of different types of couples we've seen over the years, and you'll laugh when you kind of hear yourself. What we have found in our experience is that many times there's savers and then there's spenders.
yeah,
Savers are the one that have the Excel chart that knows where every dollar goes and they have a home for it.
yep,
Meanwhile, spenders like to enjoy life now. They want to be able to spend money. When you have a saver put together with a spender, many times there's tension because the spender understands what has been saved. And so now they want to have the lease or the opportunity to go enjoy the fruit of what they have been saving. But it's very hard for someone who's a saver by nature to let go. Because even though you've projected it, you've put it on paper, you know you have the money to go on vacation, it is still so hard to let go because you feel like you don't know if you can do it. So you have savers and you have spenders. If you're chuckling, it's okay, you're not alone. It's very rare that we meet two savers, and it's very rare that we meet two spenders.
right.
When you have two savers, you're going to have a whole lot of money and not a lot of fun. When you have two spenders, you're going to have a whole lot of fun and not a lot of money. So most people, when they find themselves, and we're not trying to typecast or wave a broad brush, but a lot of times, again, in financial planning, the issues that arise are not from catastrophic world events or market crashes. It is from the ins and outs, the small things, and the lack of communication, which is what I would consider an opportunity cost.
Yep.
If you are not on the same page with your spouse or significant other about your money, what it's doing, how it's working, are you dreaming together, you will probably forego things, opportunities in life because you just don't know how to talk through them, or you don't know if you can. And maybe this is the power of working with a financial professional, is just having somebody who's unemotional that can step into your situation and help you understand what your money has the capacity to do. But with that, I would give you a word of warning. please make sure that you're working with a fee-only financial planner, somebody that is not compensated for selling you products, but also has a fiduciary obligation to work in your best interests. So, Dan, as we talk kind of though about those savers and spenders, you had a great note here, and I'd love you to talk about it, which is not, focusing on the past, but making the future the goal.
Yeah, I mean, too many people get hung up on kind of the past, either what mistakes they've made, when it comes to finances, or what they haven't done. Maybe they don't think they've saved enough money, or they went to college and took out a whole bunch of loans, and now they're having to pay those back. Um, but you want to try to focus on from this point forward. You can't change what's been done in the past. So focusing on what you have going forward, and working with someone to help you kind of get yourself on track and to move the ball forward. That's huge. When we work with clients, we try to just step by step. Maybe we might focus on one thing during a meeting. Let's move
Mhm.
this ball forward just a little bit. Um, just move the ball forward. Don't dwell on the past, because you can really beat yourself up over financial decisions. Every single person in the world can do that. Even millionaires and billionaires, they can all. Everybody can look back and say, you know what, I really kind of made a wrong decision here. But try not to focus on that. Try to move forward. Um, Another thing is to include each other when you are with your spouse or significant other. Include each other in those financial discussions. Like we mentioned earlier, many times you'll have one person that pays the bills and the other person has no idea how much money comes in every month into the bank account. But
Yep.
if you include each other, and you get that buy-in from your spouse, I think that goes a long way in being able not only to kind of set goals, but to reach those goals as well, because you both have that buy-in. You both feel like you're a part of the discussion, and to move that ball forward, just make sure you include each other, in the discussion, even if you're the person that doesn't really want to be that involved. Even just taking little steps to get involved, a little bit, and figuring out where the money's going, and how you're saving money. um, I think that goes a long way in being able to actually do the things that you want to do, and accomplish the goals financially that you want to accomplish.
Yeah,
Uh,
and Dan, I'll take this last one because I'll tee it
yeah,
up with this. Um, I think this is where the power of understanding projections can help. Like you said, it's hard not to dwell on the past, and many times we dwell on the past because we don't understand what the future looks like. When you and I have been in the room with individuals that maybe have felt stuck for a long season of life, or they've made mistakes or whatever, and you can build into financial planning software where they are today with the tools that they have, and kind of map out over 20, 30 years what their money has the capacity to do. Many people have never seen that money expanded with time, compound interest, and all of a sudden it gives them the opportunity to step outside of the maybe hard season of life they're in right now and see there's hope, there's a ray of light. But it also includes that you got to make some good decisions along the way. Like, these things aren't going to happen if you don't follow a prescribed way of doing it. But that kind of leads to our last point, which is like, we got to be crazy adaptable.
yep,
If we have learned anything as people over the last 5 years plus, is that the world can change in a heartbeat like that. Laws can change, communities can change, life can change. There is no person that started a financial plan 15, 20 years ago that is just everything's the same. You have to be able to adapt. And that's the power of financial planning, is being able that when life throws you a curveball, either that you asked for or you didn't, like, what do we do to pivot and still get the most from our money in life? And bringing in spouses together. And, some people like to do things separately. We've experienced that. We've been in the room with individuals that they both have their own folders. And when you talk about assets, they both have their own accounts. There's no shame in that. It's not a one size fits all. But I think that there definitely is, even if you keep things separate, power in doing things together and having conversations. Because you had mentioned in the estate planning conversation, in 2019, the Secure Act forever changed how investment assets can be passed on. You used to be able, prior to 2019, if your mother and father saved millions of dollars and passed it on to you, you could spread those RMDs, or those required minimum distributions, over the course of your lifetime to mitigate taxes. In 2019, the IRS said not anymore. If
Yep.
you inherit money from a parent, a non-spouse, but a parent, you have 10 years to withdraw all the money in that account. That can be crippling for people. So when you talk about money, this is going to segue into kind of the next group that we want to talk to, which is our children, our adult kids. We would love for you to know that in your lifetime, you're going to live off the fruit of everything you've built, you and your spouse, all the dreams, all the aspirations, all the money. But as we said in our first video, sometimes life can be kind of ugly and throw you curveballs you never expected. What happens if you or both you and your spouse don't get to live with the money you have for your entire lifetime and it does get passed on to your kids? Are you having conversations with your children of what they can expect? And is it appropriate to do? Are you setting your kids up not only through spoken word and communication, sitting them down, but also legally through estate work and tax work? So, Dan, I know that this is, if a spouse is hard, like not that kids are easier, but I feel like a lot of times parents struggle with the balance between, like, I don't want my kids to be oblivious that we've done well, but
Yep.
I also don't want to share too much that they stop working at life. Like if they know money's coming their way, I don't want them to change. I don't want to manipulate them. And so, like, talk to us as a planner. If you have adult children, like, what are some best ways that you can start to talk to your kids about money?
And I think, Steve, it goes back to even talking to your spouse about money. It's kind of this, it's a similar discussion, just to be honest with them, not only about what you have currently, but also, when we talk to, it doesn't even necessarily have to be adult children, it could be younger children as well. Decisions you've made in the past with money that you either regret or that you're proud of. um, you want to talk through those things so that your children have really kind of that baseline understanding of, this is where I can be in the future, right? But in some clients that we work with, they have a tough time, like you just mentioned, bringing up what they actually have to their kids. So, and you don't necessarily have to do that. You don't have to tell them this is the exact dollar amount we have in savings, but I think you need to make sure that they're aware that there may be some potential impacts in the future financially for them. Um, and they will likely know that based on your lifestyle and things like that. But I think if you're just honest with them, you have open communication, and you really let them know these are the things that I wish I had done, or these are the things that I'm proud of that I've done.
Yep.
um, I think that can lead to some pretty good discussions with your children, whether that's young children or adult children. And there's not a big surprise, right? You don't want to have that big surprise that when someday when you do pass away, this is what I've left to my kids, and they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't expect this. You want to make sure that they have an understanding of what that's going to look like at some point in the future as well.
Yeah. And I want to add kind of what I've experienced with people over the years. Um, I think the goal and the intent of most people is to do the right thing. And
Yep.
many times they want to honor their kids by leaving them something. But what I have seen is that the recipients of those gifts many times don't know emotionally what to do with it.
Hmm.
You and I have dealt with individuals that have inherited millions of dollars from
Yep.
dad or from mom. And when you talk with them, they don't talk like it's their money. You know what I
Right.
mean? When you talk with them, they talk like this is dad's money and I can't spend it. So, part of this dialogue conversation, there's a few things. You know the maturity level of your children, you
Yep.
know their situation. I think a lot of times parents might be afraid that they're going to set their kids up for failure if they share too much. So, there are some ways through financial planning that you can ensure as part of a planned giving strategy. You might have two kids that are super mature with money. They got a head on their shoulders. They're doing the right things. And you might have a child that's a little bit wayward, a little bit wild. And so you don't want to leave them money because it might set them up for failure. There's some things you can do through financial planning and estate work to really make sure that you're setting each one of your kids up. And that's a big part of it too. It's like, what should you gift your kids? This is just a little financial planning 101. But if you have a child that is a, corporate executive making great money and another child that works at a nonprofit, kind of just getting by, the way in which you leave assets should be very different for each one of those kids. Because as we talked about, if you leave this, 50-50, want to be fair, I don't want to play favorites, let's leave 50% of our assets to one kid and 50 to another. The one that's making great money, as much as I'm sure they're going to be appreciative, they would still, one, value time with you other than having you pass. But two, you might be putting them in a crippling financial situation, because if they now all of a sudden inherit $1 million or $500,000 and they're already a high income earner that now has to deplete that account every year for 10 years, their taxes are going to go through the roof. So it's not just, hey, let's have a conversation with our kids. It's like, what do we want to talk about? And then having a planned giving strategy. And this is something that I think as we talk with people, they're like, yeah, I've never even thought about that.
Yep.
Are you somebody that wants to like set your kids up when you're no longer here, or is part of your life and legacy getting them to like see through your eyes the appreciation and love while you're here? So are there things that you want to do while you can still witness it that would make you feel good? And it doesn't have to be one or the other. You don't have to leave everything in your estate plan to your kids. So when you're no longer here, they can fight it out, they can talk it out, they can have all of it. Or are you somebody that wants to see more of like your kids enjoying financial gifts or opportunities while you're still here with them? That's what a good financial plan would consist of. What is the objective? What are the goals? And then what are the tools and resources that we have that can really help you understand like how to set your kids up? And I know we had, a couple here about teaching your kids about money and giving back. There's so much more that Dan and I can talk to you. But Dan, I want to maybe, as this last part, talk about like getting on the same page financially. In some of the documents or resources that we have that have helped people. So why don't you talk to us then about like how do we actually make sure everyone knows what's going on?
Yeah, and we've actually we and I see this all the time where you'll have spouses or family members that they they don't even know where each other's documents are, wills and
Yep.
power of attorney, and they don't know. I've had people that didn't know they had retirement plans, and they found them over time. So having a place where you can kind of put all of that stuff together,
Hmm.
or even just a document to kind of say, hey, this is where everything is located.
Yep.
You can contact Dan or Steve at Seed Planning Group, and they'll help you find these documents. We use what's called an important document locator. We hand it out to clients where they literally can just list out their important documents and where they're located. It's as simple as that. Wills, power of attorneys, insurance, life insurance documents, statements, retirement documents, things like that, where these are things you may need down the road. You will need at some point down the road, and having a way to help find that is huge. So I know there's a way that anybody who's watching today, if they want to contact us, Steve, you'll have that information, and we can get that out to them. But that's one of the things you want to make sure that you do is just have a list of here's our items, here's our important documents. We want to make sure that everyone has access to this and has the ability to find these documents in case something does happen to one of you.
Yeah, and it's not even Dan, adult children we want to do this for. Let me show you how to get it. If you head to 401ktime.com, that's 401ktime.com. That is your portal that we have created for you that has resources and videos and planning insights for you. But in the top right corner of that website, there's going to be a contact us button. If you would like a copy of this resource, head over to the contact us button, put your name, your email, send it to us and say, hey guys, please send me a copy of that. We'll get it right out to you, help empower you. Because as we had kind of mentioned at the beginning of this video, many times there's kind of one more dominant person in a marriage or relationship that kind of handles everything, whether it's because the other spouse isn't interested, doesn't want to do it, or they just love numbers. This document locator can be extremely helpful because you and I have seen over the years when surviving spouses are lost because they were not the one pulling the strings and knowing what was going on. And like you said, they don't even remember where their significant other had bank accounts or passwords or usernames or how to do any of this stuff because I cannot tell you how many times my wife asks me what the passwords are for her Apple iPhone and her Google
Yep.
account. And I'm like, it's not that she doesn't care. It's just a lot of times I'm the techie one that does stuff for her quickly because I love her. It's not because I'm trying to like shy away and keep her at arm's length, but a lot of times I know she's raising our kids and she's busy. So it's like, here, just give me your phone. I'll put a password in and save it. Having a document like this is extremely helpful. So we hope really between these two videos as part of your education, these videos were not meant to say, here's how much you can contribute to your plan. If you want to know that information, reach out to us. We're happy to share it. But we really wanted to bring you the topics, everything from budgeting and like what is financial planning. We got a couple other videos where we're going to talk about like how to throw gasoline on all this stuff with Kevin and myself. That's a super powerful video. But again, our whole goal, whether you make decisions on your own, whether you work with a financial professional, whether you are looking to work with a financial professional, use these tools, use these insights. Do not be a stranger. Just remember, everybody gets 20 minutes a year with our team to understand what's going on. Sign up for that complimentary review, 401ktime.com, contact us button, get in touch with us. Go live your best life. Life is too short. It's worth living. It can change in a moment's notice. Make sure you're doing the things that we talked about to set you and your family up for success. And as always, Dan, thanks for being on and sharing your insights.